So in this video we are going to be continuing to take a look at a scenario where civilization starts over. We are now on episode 10 of the series, and in the last episode we saw a pretty big war up here with Sweden. This is really starting to show Sweden's strength, and we also saw a pretty large event, and that is the connection of the Asian to the old world civilizations. So that is a pretty big event. If you didn't see the last video, please make sure to go and watch it now, and yeah, let's begin on this one. So the first event of this video is going to be our daily Japan update, because there's going to be some other important stuff that's going to be happening after, so I just want to get this out of the way at the start. So, the beige coloured country, they're going to be continuing their shenanigans. They are still kind of sad that they lost their old strength, so they're going to be going after the weakest Japanese country, and that's going to be this blue team right up here. This country only really formed because of the rest of it was collapsing, so they were kind of distracted, and now that they're not distracted, they are going to easily take over this country, and yeah, that is that country completely gone off the map. And the second daily Japan update we're going to be having, because I like to do two of them because that's kind of just small, it's not really an update, but this Hokkaido country is going to be discovering the rest of this coral island chain, so they'll be colonising that one and discovering up here to Siberia. Next up, over here, we're going to be having the Indonesians continuing their expansion. These guys are starting to become very strong, and now that they have met up with these Indian countries, they are becoming increasingly strong and rich due to their trading. And yeah, it's going very well for them, so they're now going to start their colonisation of Papua New Guinea. I imagine this would be similar to their colonisation of Borneo, where it's going to take place over multiple episodes. We also see a treaty be set up between the Indonesian country and Taiwan, and that is for a division of the Indonesian islands. So, Papua New Guinea islands rather. So Indonesia gets these islands down here, and Taiwan gets these ones. Actually, I'm going to give this one to the Philippines as well. Why do I keep calling it the Philippines? And to go along with this, we're going to see the discovery of Bougainville, and just a little bit more of this ocean is going to be mapped out, including some of these Pacific islands, just like this. But now we are going to be seeing a pretty big war happening. So, in the last episode, we saw this anti-Egyptian alliance form up, and this is to kind of combat the Egyptians' expansion. They are becoming extremely strong. If we are looking at the power rankings right here, these are outdated. I'm going to update them this episode, but we can see that Egypt is the strongest country. I'm not sure if they are anymore. I'll have to look at that in a second. But these guys united because they are very scared of Egypt. So Egypt is going to be looking elsewhere to expand, and they think they have a perfect target. And of course, that is going to be Greece. So the Egyptians are going to be declaring war on Greece. Their reason is land, lovely reason. And for those of you who know the history of this Wixer, you'll know that Egypt used to be a colony of Greece, but they broke away due to them being mistreated, and that was partly due to Greece becoming a dictatorship. So the Egyptians, aiming to now have influence over some of the other parts of the Mediterranean, they're going to launch an invasion of Cyprus, then Crete, and then they're going to launch their full-on invasion of Greece. They land in southern Anatolia and take two major cities in their first week of invading. They then encircle some of these Greek forces over here, and they continue up the land. However, something to note about Egypt, while they do have a very strong military, they don't exactly have the strongest navy, and when the Greek navy is mobilised, we actually see something pretty interesting happen, and that is Greece actually manages to retake Cyprus. Greece completely bombards the island with their superior navy, and we also see something similar happen to this island over here. And when the Egyptians try and launch an invasion of this southern Greek island, it goes very terribly for them. They are kind of just completely surrounded by the Greek navy as well, sort of what happened over here. And this kind of shows that the Greeks are still powerful. The Egyptians are now going to focus all of their efforts on Anatolia, and they quickly capture this major city, and they're now moving up north to Constantinople, this city right here. Pretty major city for the Greeks, especially for trade. If they were to lose that, very bad side effects would happen. This land over here is then encircled, and all of this land over here is taken. From here, the Egyptians then move towards Constantinople and are now entering the gates of the city. But now we're going to be seeing something pretty interesting happening. So, seeing how Egypt is becoming increasingly strong and now is even looking like they're going to be defeating Greece, we see the anti-Egyptian alliance send over an ultimatum to Egypt. And this is of course because they don't want them to become increasingly strong, which could threaten them. And this demands that they retreat all forces from Greece and maybe even pay some reparations to Greece. Now, this is going to infuriate the leader of Greece. The Greek king is going to get this message, and he's going to literally set it on fire. And then he kind of does something really stupid. He goes over to Sudan, where the capital is kind of surrounded, and he just blows up the city. Like, he goes in there, invades it, and just completely destroys the city. This kind of from his complete anger from receiving this ultimatum. And this is, of course, going to lead to a war. So, the Diamond Anti-Egyptian Alliance is going to be declaring war on Egypt. So to start off with, as soon as these Egyptian forces up here get word of this, they start invading straight away into Turkey. They capture this major city right here. This actually does give the Greeks a little bit of a surprise advantage. They managed to retake some of these areas over here, however they are kind of stopped and then pushed back to this little peninsula here. Down over here in Sudan, we see the country get completely crushed. However, when this country does surrender, a lot of guerrilla fighters do stay around in the desert. This kind of makes it hard for Egypt to occupy the area, so they have to send a lot of troops here. Now we're going to see Egypt's main offensive in this war, and that is going to be the invasion of Anatolia. So moving up south and around the coast, we see this Syrian area quickly fall, and this major city, which is quite important for Turkey, is captured. And we also see this meet up. We then see Egypt launch an invasion into Mesopotamia, and they quickly approach Baghdad, which is one of the major cities here. I'm not sure if Baghdad is here in real life, but we're just going to assume this city is called Baghdad. And we also see special Egyptian forces move in the desert, and they launch an invasion of Qatar, capturing this major city right here, and approaching the capital city. Back over here to Greece, we see them manage to make a landing down here and retake this major city, and this is kind of confusing, like, why is Egypt going for this area over here? And it kind of becomes clear why they do this when they move forces away from Istanbul. The Greeks launch a massive offensive. This had been a kind of distraction, and in fact most of the army here is actually just a fake army. It's just a bunch of civilians dressed up in army clothes, so these guys are quickly pushed back. But the damage up here is done, as Egypt is pushed back a lot, and even Turkey manages to meet up with them. However, Egypt is not just going to fall back that easily. They launch a second invasion quickly after moving these troops back up here to recapture this city, and then in full force they manage to launch a pretty impressive encirclement of these Greek forces. However, most of them are able to retreat by sea. From here we see the full-on invasion of Turkey by the Egyptians. This major city is captured, and we can see that the Egyptians are attempting to encircle this large area of Turkey right here. Moving back over to Mesopotamia, we see a lot of these cities be captured. However, in Qatar over here, we do see a actual pushback take place, and even some Qatar troops are even moving towards Egypt through the desert. These guys will kind of just make a bit of an offensive and kind of just camp out here in this Egyptian area. Now, moving back over here to Sudan, we have, after some continued guerrilla warfare takes place, we have like a full-on sort of revolution, I guess, take place, as a puppet government had been set up in here when it was fully invaded, and this guy kind of just breaks away from Egypt. This is a big threat to them, as now they have to move a lot more troops down here. However, back over here to Turkey, we see something pretty concerning happen. The Egyptians managed to complete their encirclement of the capital of Turkey. And from here, when Egyptian forces move in, it is looking increasingly like they're about to win this war. But just as it looks like this is going to be a victory for the Egyptians, something happens. The Square Alliance joins the war and they declare war on Egypt. Now, the Square Alliance, this is a Carthaginian-led alliance, and they have been feeling very threatened by Egypt in these past few episodes, and recently they have even discovered plans of an Egyptian invasion into their nation, and that was kind of the final straw. And when this war happened, they were just waiting for a time to join the war, and now seeing that Egypt is looking like it's going to win, they decide it's time to act. And Carthaginian forces will move into Egypt rather. So these forces quickly move around into this Libyan area. Egypt was absolutely not expecting this, so this area is going to quickly fall. To add on to this, we even see some Ukrainian forces be sent down here to help out Turkey. This helps alleviate a lot of stress from this area and forces the encirclement to stop. And these forces are now pushed back. Over here in Mesopotamia, we see slight pushbacks take place. And in Qatar, these forces that had been camping out in the desert finally move in, capturing this major city right here, and quickly moving towards this next one, taking it as well. And this area is kind of mostly desert. So they move towards the coastal area where a lot of people actually live, and then they stop because they can't really go further. Over here in Sudan, we see the country be fully liberated, and they take back this coastal land, and then they begin to move up, taking this major city right here. However, back over here, it's not going all too well for the Square Alliance, as Egypt, after organising their military, does make a slight pushback. Their main goal is to defend their major area, which is this area right here. This is very important to Egypt. It's like their core land, and they don't want these Carthaginian forces to get anywhere near it. At this point, we see Caucasia launch an invasion into Egypt. They haven't really done much this war, they've mainly just been holding on their border, and they will now launch their invasion, and this kind of makes a very bad logistical situation right here, forcing these troops to retreat. To add on to this, we see something similar to this happen in Mesopotamia when Mesopotamian forces move up in an attempt to encircle these Egyptian forces, and this kind of leads to a full-on retreat out of the country. These troops will then give chase to the Egyptians, and this major city right here will be captured. And next up, a pretty big event is happening. In the Anatolian area, the Greek navy and the Ukrainian navy, which these two are now working together fully, Ukraine is now fully into this war, they launch a massive naval assault on the, this part of Anatolia, and quickly move in. This overwhelms the Egyptian forces, who are forced out, and after a little bit of fighting, we actually see them fully be pushed out of the peninsula. This is a very big victory for the Greeks and the Anatolians, and these guys, who were previously enemies, are now working together very well. Cyprus is then recaptured by the Greeks, and a full-on assault is launched down into Syria. And the famed Egyptian military, who was once seen as the strongest in the world, is now completely outnumbered, and they are fighting too many fronts. It's just going really bad for them. This is like a 5-front war for the Egyptians. It's kind of just way too much for them. The Sudanese will invade up into their once land, and as this area hadn't kind of been fully assimilated yet, we see some Sudanese rebellions take place in this major city, and this encircles some Egyptian forces. From here, now with support from Mesopotamia, we see Qatar launch their invasion of the populated coastal areas, and this goes very well, and an invasion up takes place. From here, the Square team breaks through the front lines as Moroccan and even Roman reinforcements have arrived. The Romans are not in this war, they're kind of just sending troops here to help out their ally of Carthage, and they're kind of just volunteering. This major city will be captured, and this is very bad for the Egyptians, as this was kind of like they had set up a wall from this major city to protect their core land. And after this, a complete breakthrough happens. The Caucasians then continue their invasion, and the Egyptians are ordered to fully retreat out of all occupied areas, as they are kind of trying to protect their homeland. This leads to something like this happening, with the Egyptians now being pushed back fully to here, and this does sort of have an effect. We see the Square team sort of be pushed back, however then their wall of defence when they meet the city kind of works against them, because the Carthaginians are now using it to stop the Egyptians from moving into their occupied land. Over here, we see the Turkish completely break through this front line, and this is not only the Turkish, this is like all of these guys fighting. And the Sudanese are going to continue on with their onslaught. Now, at this point, the people of Egypt are kind of seeing the writing on the wall, but their absolute monarch, as you can see here, if I can get the ideologies layer up, they are an absolute monarchy, and their monarch, they do not want to stop the war. They are conscripting more and more people to go and fight, and they are starting to lose a lot of popularity. And this actually causes a full-on rebellion to take place, as a lot of these Egyptian peoples who do not want to be fighting this losing war will rebel away, and kind of the only exception for that is the capital area, where most of the king's loyal supporters lie. These guys will then quickly join up with Carthage, and these guys with Qatar, and from here, this land down here falls, and on the 17th of September 985, Turkish forces will enter into the capital of Egypt, kill the king, and Egypt will surrender. So that was a very big war. That was kind of the first major big war of this series, and Egypt has just been absolutely blasted, so maybe them being such an aggressive nation was very bad for them. But anyway, let's go ahead and have a look at this peace treaty. So, in this peace treaty here, we can see that Egypt has been absolutely, just destroyed from this war. They have lost most of their land, so let's just have a bit of an overview. So, first of all, a few new countries have been made out of Egypt. First of all, we have this Palestinian, or Jordanese country, I'll just call it Jordan. We have a new Libyan country, we have this new Arabian country, and we have this country that is a Qatar puppet. The countries that got land out of Egypt, we see Turkey got a bit of land, Mesopotamia got some land, Caucasia got some land, but they only got one province. And Sudan, they got the most land out of this. They gain all of their former land and some. Taking a look at the ideologies layer, because there's also stuff to go over here, we see that Egypt has now become a dictatorship. The rebellion that took over, they were led by one person, and he has set up a dictatorship with himself at its centre. Most of these new countries are just constitutional monarchies. An interesting thing to note here is before the war, Sudan was a dictatorship, but when they kind of like re-emerged as guerrilla fighters, they would set themselves up as a democracy. And this country is a democracy because it has a parliament, even though it's kind of just ruled by these guys. But that is it for that aspect, and there are some things that happen like straight away after the war, and that is kind of the disbandment of this anti-Egyptian alliance, and that is going to be the Sudanese country leaves it, the Caucasian country leaves it, and the Qatar country leaves it, and that only leaves it to be Mesopotamia and Turkey. So yeah, that was a pretty big war, and that is going to have a lot of changes over the whole world. And the first change that that's going to have is the power rankings, because now we're going to be doing the power rankings. So, at number 1, the current strongest country in the world, it's going to be the Baikal country, and that is what it is. This I shouldn't have called it Mongolia, because it is the Baikal country because of Lake Baikal. So, with them sort of meeting up with the old world, I'm just going to call it the old world, even though it's not really the old world. They have now the technology and the strength of the old world, so that really helps them out. At number 2, taking a pretty big leap, is actually going to be Sweden. Sweden has, after that war, completely like restructured their country, and now they are a very big military power. At number 3, it's going to be Greece. Pretty self-explanatory there, they were number 2 before. At number 4, it is going to be France. They haven't really done much, but they have stayed as a strong country. At number 6 is Indonesia. Similar to the Mongolians, now meeting up with the old world, they have gained a lot of strength and technology. Number 6 is going to be Ukraine. Number 7 is going to be Carthage. Number 8 is going to be Rome. Number 9 is going to be Central China. And I think at number 10, it's going to be... who would be number 10? I feel like even though they got absolutely destroyed in that war, I feel like Egypt might still be up there. I tell you what, I'm going to give it to the Dutch. The Dutch have kind of re-emerged as a somewhat strong power, although they are still quite weak. So these are the new top 10 rankings. So at number 1, we have the Baikal Empire. Number 2, we have Sweden. Number 3, we have Greece. Number 4, we have France. Number 5 is Indonesia. Number 6 is Ukraine. Number 7 is Carthage. Number 8 is Rome. Number 9 is Central China. And number 10 is the Dutch. So now that we've got that out of the way, we are going to be looking at something pretty major happening, and that is the Baikal country continuing on their conquest. So as we know, these guys believe that they were sent by God out west to discover these false religious peoples, to change them to their religion, this religion right here, and they're currently focused on these guys. So the Baikalians will be converting forcefully these Caspians to their religion, and any people who refuse are just exiled from the country or killed. And this was happening while this big Egyptian war took place, and eventually we see it be pushed fully out of their country. Very bad for them. To add on to this, the Mongolians are now going to, I call them the Mongolians again. They are going to be expanding outwards, and now a lot of these countries are getting very scared because now they are linked up with these guys, and that is of course going to be the Crimeans and the Green Russians. The Baikalians will also be expanding a bit down south, and I think that's going to be their quest for today. But next up, we're going to be seeing some colonization of land, and that is going to be by the Russians. So the Russians are going to be taking more of this central area over here, and they will be following their treaty that they have with the Green Team, where they have to go past this line and they can't claim any land south of this line, and they'll be taking all of this land. But next up, we're going to be seeing a pretty small war take place, and that is going to be the sort of struggle for power that we see over here. So when this Lime team collapsed, we see these two other countries come out of it, and these guys are battling for influence over this main green country, and the dark purple country has just won. They managed to place a member of the dictator's family as president of this country, and they are going to be wasting no time declaring war on this northern blue country. Their capital will really quickly fall. It's unfortunate for them. All their major cities are right on the border of other countries. After this, they are going to be completely cut in two. And we kind of see the Ukrainians sneakily get in on this to try and take some land over here. And this country is then going to fall. So in this peace treaty here, we can see that the land has been divided up. We see Ukraine gets this portion of land right here that they took, and the rest is united under the green team, who they're going to move their capital to a bit more of a secure location, the old capital of that country over there, the blue one. But now we're going to be seeing a little bit more exploration happen. But first, there is just something I want to talk about. So now with Egypt gone as a country, there is not really any more incentive to move around Africa to trade with India, as now they can have free trade. The reason they were going around Africa before is to bypass the Egyptian routes, which the Egyptians were heavily taxing. And now because of this, they don't really have the need to go around Africa anymore, because once again they can just trade through the Middle East. So we kind of see the exploration stop. But yeah, the final event of this video, exploration, that is going to be in Greenland, as the Swedish are going to continue exploring. As well as this, they will be fully taking over Iceland, as well as Svalbard, even though it's extremely cold up there. But that is actually going to be it for this video. If you did enjoy, please make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Also, we are currently very close to 1,000 subscribers, so if you aren't already, please make sure to subscribe. And yeah, I will see you in the next video.